Today on the LA Food Podcast, I'm your host, Lucas Hervodio, and wow, if I knew that selecting Not Like Us as our new theme song would coincide with a week of food review diss tracks, I may have changed it a lot earlier, dear listener, because the discourse is delicious. This week, legendary LA food writer Bill Esparza made waves when he dropped a scathing review of Via's Tacos on his Instagram stories. The review had been building for weeks, if not more than a year, and its Kendrick-style wop, 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 wop intensity left all of Los Angeles talking. Father Saul is with us today to dive deep into the situation, including what led to it, what the review got right and wrong, and how Victor Villa and others in the LA food community responded. We attempt to answer the essential questions. Was Bill's criticism fair? Did he go too far? Was he too mean? And what does it mean that Bill's opinions on these tacos seems to be so far removed from that of other key voices in the food world, including Bill Addison, LA Taco, and even Michelin Bib Gourmand? One housekeeping note, Bill's review took place on Instagram stories and is no longer available. Fear not though, we've got your back. We took screenshots and the entire review can be found on our Substack, LA Food Stack, linked in the show notes. On a lighter note, we're also joined on the podcast today by Duncan, Parsons, and Joe Wedd, the duo behind Creamy Boys, a New Zealand-style real fruit ice cream concept down in Hermosa Beach. I had a blast talking to these two rambunctious fellas about how they turned their lifelong friendship and passion for their hometown delicacy into a business concept that is kind of taking Los Angeles by storm. If you haven't had New Zealand-style ice cream yet, I'm not sure you can really say your summer has even begun, so give this a listen and then go get your Hokey Pokey on. That sentence will make sense once you've heard the interview, which I can't wait for you to hear, so without further ado, let's chow down. Dear listener, I made a deal with my wife. She let me start a food podcast and eat ungodly amounts of noodles, pizza, sandwiches, and more under two conditions. One is that I never utter her name. The other is that I find ways to be healthy outside of my work in food. Being the fantastic partner I am, I found a few ways to up my health game. I exercise almost every day, I try to sneak in salads for lunch whenever I can, and I only ever snack on healthy foods. The macadamia nut has become an essential part of my daily routine with the best omega-6 to 3 ratios in the nut game, 8 times better than pistachios and 20 times better than cashews. At houseofmacadamias.com, they've got a bunch of different macadamia products that you can enjoy, like savory and sweet snack packs and chocolate-covered snack bars. One of the problems with macadamias I've found is that they can be expensive, but I'm solving this for you, dear listener, because as of today, all you've got to do is head to houseofmacadamias.com and use code LAFOOD to get a 10% discount on a healthy snack that also happens to be delicious. So what are you waiting for? Head to www.houseofmacadamias.com/discount/LAFood and go nuts. Welcoming back to the LA Food Podcast, a man who Spotify has classified as grunge divorce dad rock early morning, at least in terms of his musical taste, is Father Saul. Father Saul, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. I've been noticing, so there's these custom day lists that Spotify makes, and all of them are just negging me in a weird way. They're like, this is for divorced dads, and I'm like, why would you think I want this?
What are you listening to that divorced dads also happen to be listening to?
Well, what's hilarious is that I kind of had a kick going back to like 2000s kind of alt-rocky music, you know, your Fountains of Wayne, your Blink-182. A lot of Blink-182 recently.
Yes.
And so this is the stuff I grew up on, right? You and Simple Plan. I know you were a big fan for a while. Where was the quote? It was like your Insta profile?
No, I think I had like, I'm just a kid and my life is a nightmare as like the little descriptor on your Facebook profile. Like the late aughts, like that was I did it in kind of like an ironic way because Simple Plan wasn't even cool anymore, but you know.
Right. Yeah. But the trippy thing is, like, we grew up on this music and now it's music for, like, apparently our peers are already getting divorced. with their kids. So
Well, we know that to be true firsthand. Um, now, now, hoping none of those people listen to this podcast. Look, so let's not beat around the bush. There's really one big thing happening in Los Angeles this week as far as food news goes, and it is the feud between Bill Esparza and Villa's Tacos. So, have you been following this?
I have. I mean, you gave me the heads up, and then I was going through Bill's Insta story yesterday, and I was like, whew.
So this has been building in my world for weeks, but did you have any inkling that this was going on?
No, not at all. I mean, I know Bill, right? Follow Bill, read his stuff. I know he's got an edge to him. I did not know about like the particular dynamic with Via's Tacos.
It's pretty insane, and I think it raises some really interesting questions, and it's also involved some other voices into the conversation that we'll also be discussing. But I'm just going to give the listeners a really quick rundown of basically what's happened. So the story begins June 26th when Bill Esparza published his updated list of the 38 essential taquerias in Los Angeles. And to his credit, it's a pretty diverse list. It includes really regional stands, their beloved LA classics, many of which Bill himself found or discovered, if you will. And there's also old school spots like Cielito Lindo that speak to the rich history of LA's Mexican cuisine. So it's a very comprehensive list. It's not like you can really accuse Bill of only zeroing in on one type of Mexican restaurant for his list. However, when the list was published on Instagram, folks, as they always do, got in the comments of the Eater post to basically complain about notable absences. One such absence was Highland Park's very own Villa's Tacos, which started during the actually started like way back before the pandemic as a backyard pop-up and has since gone on to open a brick and mortar in Highland Park as well as Grand Central Market. This is a really beloved taco stand. It's gotten a ton of accolades. It's won Taco Madness 3 times. It's been on Bill Addison's 101 for the LA Times, and it's even gotten a Michelin Bib Corbon. So this is a spot that even you have been to. What have your impressions been of Villa's Tacos every time you've been?
Yeah. Well, I think we've been one time when it was still a pop-up during COVID. And like, I don't know if you remember this, but funny enough, I was not the biggest fan of Villa's Tacos. I don't know how much I like revealed in the moment, but just the stuff. So like, it's a maximalist taco, right? It's like it's almost like a mini. I mean, it's like a mini burrito, right? There's so many, like the meat's there, but then like 8 different sauces, a huge scoop of guacamole. And for me personally, I like a simpler taco experience. So when I had Villa's, I knew it was like, super hyped. It was popping off. We were waiting in line, and I was like, okay, I wouldn't wait in line for that again. I mean, it's a taco of sorts, so I'm always like not opposed to eating it, but there's just like a whole host of other tacos I would have before Villa. So when I heard that Bill was going to be specifically reviewing, I was like, actually, I think Bill's going to capture some of my experience in this conversation.
Yeah, I remember that about you too. I remember that we were really excited because it was sort of like our neighborhood taco, and we had gone several times, stood in the line outside of Victor's grandma's house where he was still running the pop out of at the time. And it was like a party atmosphere. It was like people waiting for sometimes an hour, but getting to know each other in line, cracking beers in line, like literally just like it was a good time, right? And you were sort of welcomed in by the smell of like a barbecue. It was like almost being at like someone's family barbecue where they charged you for food. And then you walked away with like these huge tacos, and we were stoked on them. They tasted really good. And so when you came to town, I was like, Saul, we got to go. We'll get there. Okay. Okay. That's just to let you listeners understand sort of where Saul and I came from on Villa's Tacos. But the feud goes like this. Basically, Eater posts the essential 38 tacos, and people start tagging Villa's in the comments being like, yo, where are you guys? Why aren't you on this list? Victor Villa himself, through the Villa's Tacos account, he runs it famously, entered the chat on one of these comments. He commented back, the same guy makes the same list every year, so we're used to it. We might not make his list, but that isn't slowing us down. Our tacos are a true representation of Los Angeles. Our tacos are a style only found in Los Angeles. We're not estilo Tijuana, not estilo anything else but Los Angeles. Whew. This was the comment that launched launched 1,000 stories because Bill did not like this so much. Right away, he posted a few stories taking issue with Victor's characterization of him as quote unquote just some guy making taco lists. Like there was a whole list of stories being like, yo, I'm not just some guy. I've written this many lists. I've written this many articles. I've won this many accolades for my reporting. So he clearly took some offense to the characterization of just being some guy who made lists. Over the next couple weeks, Bill continued to post stories hinting at the reasons why he didn't like Villa's. And eventually, this culminated in the promise of a revisit to the taqueria and a full re-review on his Instagram stories. Well, dear listener, Bill's review dropped yesterday. I counted, and it was a bona fide 33-story tirade and counting because it's still continuing into today. And to say it was ruthless is an insult to anyone named Ruth. Saul, what were your impressions upon reading this review, if you will?
I texted you. It was almost uncomfortable to read. Bill really gets after it, man. I've not since the Kendrick Drake beef, I guess, which memo referred to earlier, has there been like such a takedown of a place. No, I mean, the impression was this. During the first couple stories, it was much more about sort of, frankly, Victor Villa himself, I think, and also sort of the, I don't know, like the energy and influencer kind of hyping up of Villa's, essentially, you know, the brand of Villa's rather than the food of Villa's. And I was kind of like, all right, when are we going to get to the food? And it's getting kind of crazy how you're comparing this dude to Donald Trump in your stories and stuff like that. It felt personal, is what I'll say.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get there. Okay. So as I said, 33 stories. And thinking about it, I think you can basically categorize Bill's criticisms into 3 distinct categories. And to your point, the first was very much the hype around it, and hype that I think Bill would characterize as artificial. So he calls them this on several occasions, but he throws the word influencer around, like that these are influencer tacos that are basically benefiting from the hype of influencers. And on multiple occasions, he mentions that Victor's claim to fame is winning a quote unquote online poll, and he's referring to LA Tacos Taco Madness.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, in this sort of like hype criticism, Bill takes shots at the fans of Villa's and people that frequent his business. He mentions the fact that like in line at the Highland Park location, just a bunch of, to use his words, I think white and Asian hipsters in line, basically, he said.
I think he was quoting someone else. He was like, a friend of mine went and noted how the audience was all quote unquote white and Asian hipsters, just to be fully accurate, I think.
All right, in the name of fair journalism, I'll allow it. But basically, what he's doing in these stories, it seems, is he's definitely questioning the discernment of the fans, the expertise of the fans in recognizing true Mexican food, and on multiple occasions is suggesting that they're highly impressionable. What do you think of this criticism around the hype of Villa's, and specifically of the criticism against people who like Villa's?
I'll say it starts with, I mean, this criticism is rooted in how Bill feels that Victor is, and he didn't say this, but almost like a club promotery vibe, right? He's like, Victor cares so much about this poll. He talked about how much sort of like getting out the vote, so to speak, that Victor does, posting QR codes over highways and going through Dodgers Stadium, and trying to encourage people. And I think there was like a fundamental, I mean, we've heard Bill on this podcast talk about his sort of disdain for the interloping influencer, which he hilariously said right to your face. But
dude, honestly, the more I read these stories, the more I was like, it was a complete accident that he came on this podcast.
I mean, there's a whole interesting commentary to make there. Look, I don't know what to say about it beyond. I don't. It feels like almost more of an ad hominem attack at this point, right? Which it's a fair observation to make that like it's maybe not quite a crowd seeking the most authentic and a representative like good taco experience, and kind of like a direct jab at Victor, in part for getting in his mentions yet again, I think, That it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, what you care about is not he basically said, it's not about the cuisine. It's about like essentially the brand and energy. And for the record, like one of the things you told me the first time I went to Via's was how much of a personality Victor had and how it's a
Yeah.
cool experience, not just because of the food, but in large part because this guy creates such a party atmosphere. And I think Bill was taking direct shots at that and the people that sort of marketing draws in.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think he's basically taking issue with the fact that this is even possible, right? That somebody can get this famous and this successful based off what he perceives as the strength of personality or the force of personality and not necessarily the strength of the food. I will say, though, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way when Bill was talking about how Victor was out there campaigning for winning Taco Madness because, like, everyone knows that Taco Madness is not necessarily about who has the empirically best taco. It basically is like a community rallying event, right? Where people like get out there and rally behind their favorite taqueria, whether it's because they like the people that are behind them, whether because it's nostalgic for them in some way, shape, or form, or because it is the taqueria of their neighborhood and their community. And I think that in Via's case, they do a really good job of rallying the community behind supporting them. And I think that also means in like going out and turning out the vote in other places in Los Angeles. Now, you can take issue with whether that means they are the best taco in Los Angeles. And I think that's where this sort of gets lost in translation for both parties. But LA Taco, let's not forget, is one of the most important like news outlets in Los Angeles. And this is a key vehicle for them to actually stay in business is this Taco Madness, right? So I've seen Bill out there supporting LA Taco, but then taking issue with this competition. It feels like you kind of can't have it both ways.
Well, I don't know. I don't think he's taking issue with the competition. I think he's taking issue with Victor's approach to it. And I think the kind of like subtext is that Victor is astroturfing the results, right? Like he's not standing on business, as the kids say on his tacos. He has to get to places where people I don't know, did everyone who voted for Via's Tacos eat Via's Tacos if he's just going out campaigning on highways or at Dodger Stadium? Not necessarily, right? So it becomes much more of a pure popularity contest, which it is. It's an online poll. But I think that's what Bill's sort of criticism was. And again, it's kind of ad hominem, right? It's like not really.
Yeah.
He's been doing all this like ground setting before he even gets to the food. But it's I think intended to characterize. I mean, it's all kind of like con man characterization,
Yeah.
not to be too harsh. And Bill didn't say that, but like that's kind of like the vibe he's putting.
No. He says it implicitly, right? He said obviously he posts a picture of Trump, which we'll get there too, and giving these vibes. And also there's I think the implications in some of the things that we'll get to around the way that Victor talks about meat and the way he talks about cheese and the products he sources, there is a little bit of a con man implication.
Essentially, right? Like Bill is pointing out and goes to point out all the ways that what Via and Victor are promising are not actually the authentic representations that they're claiming them to be, or the high quality representations or well-informed representations or whatever it is that they lay him out to be. And damn, does he go into detail.
Real quick on the LA Taco thing. Like to me on that one, it's like, don't hate the player, hate the game.
Sure.
Those are the rules of the competition. And Victor is just doing what he can to use it to promote his business.
Yeah.
I think where things get lost in translation here is when Victor takes that cup, that trophy, and is like, this means we have the best tacos in Los Angeles.
Right.
Like literally it means our tacos, they taste the best, they are made the best, they are the best. And I think that is maybe an area where like we could have had a little bit more specificity that that's what Bill meant. Because I think that is what Bill meant. I think he meant winning Taco Madness does not make you the best taco in Los Angeles, basically.
Sure. Yeah, okay.
Moving on to the criticisms that you just mentioned, because the second category of criticisms that Bill spends a lot of time on is the food. To Bill's credit, one thing that he always, criticizes influencers for is basically just handing out scores and not being able to back them up. Mm-hmm. He'll be like, okay, what is a LOX level 10 or 9.7? Is it just how far your eyes roll back into your head? Or is there an actual reason why you're giving this? And to his credit, Bill gets hyper specific
Yeah.
on the food reasons why he doesn't really rate Villa's tacos that highly. He talks about the salsas, he talks about the meats, the marinades, the cooking, the sourcing. What Bill seems to insinuate to me is what we were talking about with respect to the conman characterization, but I think also just a high degree of maybe ignorance on Victor's part.
No, yeah. That's what he. I mean, it's like a dual criticism here, right? It's an actual like basically takedown of the food and the taco itself, which is where I mean, look, at this point, I'm like, I don't obviously know anywhere near the level of like Bill's an expert. He's steeped in this. This is his work and his passion. So I like, and so it's informative as I'm learning the details behind the particular critiques he has, and I'm kind of nodding my head as he's like describing the way the taco itself sort of fails because it's the same sort of vibe I felt, but without anywhere near the same level of information. And but the real thing, to your point, is that he's basically like side by side putting clips of Victor talking about Villa's Tacos, what it comes from, what they offer, how they do their food, against like he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's basically Bill's going like this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know like his the way he characterizes tacos is not correct, and then the way he executes the tacos is like wrong in all these particular ways. Now, I will say at this point though, and he kind of gave like a little bit of credit on this with the blue tortillas and one of the salsas, sort of, where this is just like the nature of like kind of being, I guess, being persuasive, which is not necessarily what Bill is trying to do. But I was like, tell me, there's got to be something going right here, right? Like I wanted to, like, at this point, I was kind of like, I don't like this seems so personal and so direct that I was like, it almost would have been more like he was like, this one thing is actually good, and if they did it like this more, it'd be like that's what I would want to see, and the rest is trash. Just in the terms, just in literally in my mind, as I'm like balancing and trying to gauge like how much weight to give Bill's critique here, basically trying to parse out what's like personal vendetta versus what's legit. Of course, Bill being Bill has laid out in as much detail as he wants all the reasons why. I mean, look, I'm not on Team Bill in terms of the tone and ad hominem sort of nature of the review, but I am on Team Bill in terms of the quality of the taco, frankly.
Yeah, well, you know what's interesting, I thought, is so Bill does sort of begin by telling us his like initial experiences and impressions of Villa's when he went back in the early days. And I thought this was interesting. He says, where I first became suspicious was talking with Victor himself. The night I first tried Villa's tacos, Victor said to me as he cooked, I never made a taco before in my life until the day we opened, which, yeah, some might see as a little bit concerning. And Bill says, I was taken aback, but it all made sense as he talked and talked, unskillfully obliterating ranchera steak, chicken, and chorizo into tiny bits resembling microplastics. And then we start to get meat again, right? But Bill is fully entitled to these food opinions, right? Like, there's no debating that very few people in the world have the experience and the breadth of knowledge that Bill Esparza has when it comes to cooking these flavors, when it comes to techniques with this type of food, when it comes to also like the use cases of certain ingredients. For example, one of the interesting thing he points out is like cotija is not something that you need to add in terms of cheese to these tacos. Like it doesn't make sense. It's just a dry, salty element that is used for antojitos, not for tacos. And he points stuff like that very expertly, where he sort of like, then wades into the ad hominem again is when he's basically trying to prove to the viewers that he's right. And he does this by pulling up clips of Victor talking about his food and pointing out how Victor is ignorant, basically, when it comes to this stuff. Like he pulls up a video of Victor talking about ranchera and how that's the best cut of meat. And Bill goes on to tell us why that's not actually the best cut of meat and why it's actually like an indication that Victor doesn't know what he's talking about. Same thing with Monterey Jack. My question is like, why do you think Bill felt the need to go the extra mile as opposed to just talking about the food?
Well, I mean, I think because Villa's was kind of to be fair, Villa's kind of is in the comments, right? Like Bill posted a list of tacos informed by his expertise, left Villa's off it. And that could have been that. But Villa kind of demanded the attention in some way, right? Like they're out there. So Bill was like not just critiquing the food, which he was like, and get out of here. I think was kind of the vibe, right? Like shut up, man. Like and look, again, fully entitled to it. it can be awkward to read something so mean spirited. But to your point, like Bill is kind of the authority here, more so Frank, possibly. I mean, I shouldn't compare this, but like more so than Victor Villa, right? If Victor hadn't made a taco until he opened Villa, I know you can't say that. That's like subjective judgment, but I'm inclined to buy Bill's version of the criticism and the real quality of what's being served here.
No, from an academic standpoint, you can absolutely say that, right? Like if you're just looking at food anthropologically, culinarily, technically, then yes, Bill is the authority in the situation compared to Victor. So I don't think you're out of line there. Yeah, I mean, look, you're right. There is an element of like responding to provocation here, right? It's like there was that name calling. It's not even really name calling, but Bill certainly felt it was name calling when
disrespectful. Intentionally, I mean, like Victor felt this.
It's it's definitely belittling, right? It's belittling on Victor's part to call him just this guy when Bill is an authority. There's a little bit of sour grapes there too, for sure, that comes through, and Bill responded to that in kind. Now, the third category of criticism, and this is, I think, where it gets really, really juicy, in my opinion. I would characterize this as a lack of respect for other taqueros and the tradition. So, for example, Bill really doesn't like it when Victor calls his tacos Los Angeles style, or when Victor makes somewhat derogatory comments about other taquerias or styles that Bill actually posts videos of, right? Like there's this video clip of Victor basically saying how like other tacos that he's tried don't really do it for him. And when you have a Villa style taco, you really can recognize it because it's so unique. There's also Bill's dislike, I would say, of Victor's attitude around winning Taco Madness. It's basically like, it's this attitude of like, of course we won, and it's not even a big deal that we won. And that's when he posts the Trump video, which is like, I think it was a video of like Trump boasting about his crowds, right? Or something like that. You mentioned that the previous attacks were ad hominem. These ones felt like the really ad hominem ones to me, because I think it felt like he was basically taking Victor to task for disrespecting an entire community.
I think you might be right. And look, I think frankly also fair game for Bill to comment on. I think the tension kind of going through all of this, and particularly the more, really the whole thing, but particularly the more personal attacks, is there's a fundamental tension. I think that's really interesting laid out in this particular feud, where Bill really does the work to champion food being made by like representative communities by communities, the best versions of things, of tacos and Mexican food in like a real sort of community based and authenticity based thing. Whereas, as far as I can tell, like Villa's Tacos and their whole approach to social media and marketing and Taco Madness is like hardcore, like kind of like capitalist, like business competition, Victor's even said, like, he's like, I'm a business, I'm competitive. It's almost like takes the vibe of Villa's almost takes a joy out of the scene in a way, right? Like he is there. I can see the line that Bill is drawing here. Now, like, look, he gets real mean about it. Let's be real. But I think there's like an underlying tension here. And this ties into the influencer thing too, where Bill's like, there's this like artificial astroturf, like social media plus capitalism overlay that like is elevating a place that doesn't belong next to places that are far more potentially authentic or proven or high quality in ways that he's able to identify. I think that's an interesting dynamic. To be clear, to your very point, this is the part where you go, oof, oof. Like as you're reading the story, you're like, oh man, that's rough to read. But yeah, Bill's gonna do his thing.
I think I fundamentally disagree with you on the Villa's point, and I'll get there, but I completely agree with you on the Bill standpoint. And I think that to really understand this entire thing, you got to understand how Bill sees himself and views his work. And you could do that by listening to his accidental interview on the LA Food Podcast a few weeks ago. But what Bill shared is really that he views himself as a bit of a steward and service for the community and for the taquero community, right? I think he sees himself as a bit of an advocate, a storyteller, and a bit of a, frankly, like custodian of the culture and of the tradition, right? So what I think he sees is he sees someone who is out there disrespecting that
Yep.
in some way, shape, or form. And I don't think Bill, to be clear, is against new things, right? Like if you look at his taco list, he has B Taqueria on there. He's been a champion of places like Gorilla Tacos in the past. He even mentions Gorilla Tacos
Yep.
as like being emblematic of like Los Angeles style in some way, shape, or form.
Yep.
But he also, I think, is looking at those things and sees a respect for tradition, a respect for technique, sort of their place within a larger cultural context. And I'm sure he also knows those chefs and sort of like how they approach their work and how they fit into all that. I think
Yeah.
what he's seen is, yes, he's felt personally attacked, but he's also felt like his work and his community have been attacked. And so what he's doing is he's standing up for those things. And I think when you put it into that context, it feels a lot less mean. It feels like, yes, it's still mean. Like if I'm Victor Villa, I'm still fucking hurting today, right? But it's more understandable. It's like, you come for my people, I come for you. It's kind of like Van Lathan says, right? Fuck me. Nah, fuck you. Now, the part where I disagree is with Victor, right? I don't think Victor is this capitalist monster who's just astroturfing for his business. And this is actually where I think Bill misses the point a little bit of what makes Villa's great. And that is when you're going to Villa's, you're not going for an excellent culinary, like lights out experience. Not everything is technically executed to the max. You are basically being invited into somebody's backyard barbecue. And it is absolutely incredible in this day and age that that can even exist. Like in an era where all the food is so cookie cutter, like that you go to. And what I mean by that, it's not cookie cutter in the way that like it's all the same or whatnot, but because of like things like regulations and like people being able to take less swings with their business models because it's so hard to succeed, what you get is a lot of like bare season 3 food, right? Everything stripped down to like the essence of like what can and will succeed in the market. Get a little bit less like personality and soul. And personality and soul sometimes means that things aren't perfect, right? The onions aren't always going to be cut perfectly. The Jamaica onion might be a little bit too sweet. The salsa might be a bit more astringent on some days than other. But that was the same in my grandma's kitchen. Like my grandma's the best chef I ever met, and she was not perfect. Like literally, if I had her food today, I could probably nitpick it to death to the point where I'm writing an angry story about how shit of a cook she is, right? But it's not about that, right? It's about being invited into somebody's backyard and getting to experience all that. And I genuinely believe, having spoken with Victor before, and I'm not here just being like a Villa stan, right? I think both parties have good points, right? I think that Victor, his whole thing is a true pride and passion for sharing that. He's sharing his like backyard. He's sharing his family's legacy. He's sharing his family's recipes. His most proud thing, I think, is being able to honor his grandparents. Like literally, when you go to Grand Central Market, the new location, it says on there, yes, it says 3-time Taco Madness champion and all that stuff, right? But it also says this restaurant is dedicated to my grandma, my grandpa. Like that's what it's really about. And I think those two things just like these two people right now, their intentions, I think, are just fundamentally missing each other.
Sure. Yeah. And that's to be fair, that's a fair point. My armchair psychologizing was from mostly a social media dynamic analysis, and to be, you're it's totally fair. And I mean, everything I hear about Victor, including another reviewer we're going to talk about in a second, and Villa's Tacos really does center on the energy describing. I mean, I think it's fundamental to their success, right? It's, personality and sort of environment you're describing here. So yeah, credit there where it's due. I may be a little bit Bill pilled here when I'm like, yeah, Victor's team influence. No, I know that's not the case or whatever. Well, maybe it's not the case.
Well, look, no, there's no denying that he knows how to play the game too, right? Like there's no denying that Victor knows how to play the influencer game. I mean, look, I'll hold my hands up. He's definitely like, reached out to me too, like to help him promote for Taco Madness and whatnot. And like, I'm happy to do that because that's like my community taqueria. Like I feel like Taco Madness is about supporting your community. And so I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm going to support my community, right? And for Taco Madness. So, he knows how to play the game. but I don't think it's necessarily all about just making the most money or being this like ultra capitalist, like, just like
Hmm.
ruthless guy. I think like he can be more than one thing, basically.
Yeah, and, well, and to that point too, you were saying, well, it's about personality and vibes, and therefore the food's not always perfect. Those don't have to be, mutually exclusive.
No, and look, but I like the food. Like I stand by that. Like I like the food of Via's Tacos. Like I would actually agree with many of the points, or some of the points, not all, some of the points that Bill made. I mean, for example, like, yeah, I'm not a huge fan, if I'm being honest, of the texture of the meat. It's something I hadn't really thought about before, but I was recently speaking with a chef. They brought it to my attention, and then I thought, okay, you know what? They have a point. They have a point there. Like, maybe I do think they actually chop it up a little bit too much. I think they could benefit from studying that a little bit and thinking about how can we actually, create a bit more of textural contrast with our meats here. It's not a perfect taco, but I do think it tastes really good when I'm having it. And what Bill takes issue is that like people get lost in the abyss of like sort of the maximalism, right? That's the point, bro. Like you're supposed to get lost in the maximalism. You know what I mean?
I guess so. Yeah, I made my feelings on the taco known. Again, I didn't like hate it or anything. I mean, I probably wouldn't go to eat it again, go out of my way to eat it again, and which is great because I'm probably not welcome at Via's Tacos anymore after this conversation. But I don't know. Like the food is the food. You're right. I look, it's fair. Like they've taken up a ton of oxygen, I will say. And to the really useful thing you laid out about where you think Bill's coming from, I think that could be a part of it as well. That not just has Victor made comments that are like perhaps uninformed, perhaps a little bit disrespectful of that community Bill champions. He also is taking a lot of the airtime, right, and attention.
So of course Victor did release a video in response, and basically he said, "Fuck the haters. We're gonna do what we do. If you love it, you love it. If you hate it, you hate it." It was pretty much par for the course. I'm not sure it was anything revolutionary. Did anything stick out to you about the response?
I mean, the one thing that made me laugh, like, sort of Trumpy. No, not really. It was like a little bit of like, fuck it, we ball, like we're like, and like just like moving on. Which just because of the story Bill posted, I was like, oh yeah, but no, it's a completely, I guess, fair response from Victor.
Yeah. No, it was a pretty standard response. Of course, conversation continued today, and I thought it was interesting too. Like one of the things that Bill said in his story tirade was he mentioned Memo Torres at one point from LA Taco. He said like Memo Torres coined the term 7-layer dip taco or something, right? And then I'm sure people got in Memo Torres's DMs because Memo Torres of LA Taco, who's on Instagram as El Dragon de Los Angeles, posted a story basically being like, yo, I'm only going to comment on this because people are in my DMs asking me. But he said something kind of funny. He said, going Kendrick against a taquero, his customers and past riders because you didn't like their taco or they calling you, quote unquote, some guy is fucking wild. Anyways, I got shit to do, but thanks for the messages. This surprised me, man.
I have no idea what their relationship is. I don't know if Bill told Memo that he was going to drop the 7-layer dip taco thing in there. However, which by the way, I will say, actually a perfect description. Like that I heard that and I was like kind of on point, man.
You know what's awesome?
Yeah.
7-layer dip.
Fair enough. I guess. I guess if you're out there, yeah. But Memo gets to something that we might be about to talk about now with your wife's response too, where look, we are spending like are committing time to kind of like parse this and like give credit where it's due on both sides. I think the initial reaction though, and I'm curious to hear what your conversation was like with your wife. The initial reaction was sort of like, I feel kind of gross having read that.
Yeah, let's get there. So yeah, I had a really interesting back and forth with my wife, who we will not name on this podcast per our agreement to stay married. And she raised some really interesting points, as she always does. She couldn't help but feel that Bill was going a bit overboard, basically. Like she had a really strong, like emotional reaction to this, as did I, honestly. I think I texted you like being like, I feel dirty, And yes, I've parsed it out since then, and I've found plenty of points where, I think Bill was being fair, even if I don't agree with him all the time. But yeah, definitely at times the criticism felt overly personal, not just of Victor, but of people who enjoy his food. And I think this raises the question of like, what is in and out of bounds for a food critic, right? It's like, I know that their job is to do more than just review the food. Like it's not just shut up and dribble. Like that is not what we're dealing with here. But I do think that there is some sort of journalistic responsibility. Where is that line?
Well, in terms of an actual line of what you can talk about, I don't think there necessarily is one or has to be one. I think the more of a line is how you talk about it, right? To me, I mean, Bill could have written a piece for Eater, kind of outlining his like observations and having doing interviews to kind of parse out maybe Via's tacos and opinions around that, like doing his review, but then also kind of trying to speak to this broader kind of influencer trend, which he seems to feel very passionate about and negatively about. And there could have been like a maybe a more formal and laid out way of doing that. I think essentially saying that I don't think it's out of bounds. I think the way this was done and the way it read and the level of sort of like personal vitriol that seemed to be behind it almost distracted from the points in some ways that Bill was making, which may have been like are really like I'm assuming accurate and considered of the taco, but it almost the way it was packaged up and the level of acidity behind sort of the some of the more like direct attacks, both on Victor and his audience, seemed it was more the tone and the way it was delivered to me.
Bill would disagree with this. Bill would disagree with this because he literally posted today,
Right? Yeah.
I think in response to receiving what I'm assuming are some not nice messages from people who like Via's tacos. He says, a good point that I wish to express. I write about people I love, people I like, people I don't like, people that hate me, anyone. Personality doesn't matter. I don't write about some places where I love the people. It's always what's on the plate. My only beef is Rick Bayless. None other exists for me with anyone in the food industry. If the food is good to me, I write about it. It's just business.
This particular situation seems like it went maybe beyond those bounds. This was like Victor kind of called out Bill.
Yeah.
And I think it's not the first time he's done that, right? I think they've like commented on that before. And so Victor's been calling out Bill repeatedly, and Bill kind of this was more of like a fight. This was like a fight. It was like what it more felt like than like a considered review. And so yeah, I don't know if that explanation from Bill fully wipes away some of the tone and yeah, mean spiritedness. Frankly, it felt like that. It was mean spirited. Yeah.
I think one thing that validates that feeling is like, ask yourself, what publication would publish this as an article? Zero. No publication would publish this as an article. An editor would never accept this, right? Like an editor would,
Yeah.
like you would need to do exactly what you were talking about, right? Like collect sources, like get opinions and whatnot. This could be an opinion piece, sure, but even then, I feel like an editor would be like, you got to rein it back, bro. You know?
Yeah. No, 100%, and that's why it was an Instagram story. I mean, look, yeah, it was a quote unquote review. Right, really, what it was like a get out of my face guy.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of how it came across, right? Like
yeah, and again, the only like I think you really got to understand where Bill comes from in order to be able to understand why he probably felt that this was justified. And you know, when I see it through that lens, I can understand. I really can. But that said, I still walked away feeling a little bit dirty. But then again, you know, sometimes you feel that way when things cut deep. And I feel like there was some truth here.
Yeah, and I should say to the extent that we can understand, Bill, we're doing our best here.
Oh yeah,
I think like really like yeah. I mean, look, the first reaction when we tested it was like, yo, this feels way too far. And then now it's been another day, and you sit with it, and you're like, all right, like let's figure out like what's fair and unfair in this fight. And like I said, for the most part, when it comes to the food itself, a lot of what Bill said felt true to me, right? Just as someone, I'm just a guy who eats tacos sometimes, right? Felt true to me, but in the package that it was in, yikes. Yeah, it was yikes.
So speaking of packages and people named Bill, I thought it was really interesting to compare this. Sorry, I wasn't talking about genitalia there, okay? I was just talking about different forms of reviews. And I'm struggling with the segues today. One thing I sent you after we read all this was Bill Addison's review of Via's, which came out in August of last year of 2023. And it was the first time that Bill Addison like actually dropped a full review of Via's tacos. I think we had some indications that he was a fan before then, like Instagram posts and stuff like that. But first time that he actually reviewed it. And it's like almost comically the polar opposite of Bill Esparza's. Like not just talking about personality, Because I was looking out for this, right? I was looking out for, is he basically just saying this is a place where it's a feel good place where you feel good and you feel like you're part of the family, et cetera, et cetera. Bill also had really nice things to say about the food specifically. Including some
Mhm.
things that specifically Bill Esparza took issue with. What does this tell us? Does this mean that one is really right, one is really wrong?
It means that eating food is a subjective experience. I get like is what it means. I mean, look, I also, I mean, if I were to get cynical with it, and I'm not suggesting this at all, right? To the conversations we've had about the relationship between media outlets and attention and food places, perhaps, I mean, look, Bill is on the unpopular corner here, right? And I'll note that while Bill Addison did compliment the food, he does kind of open talking exactly what you were talking about the energy of Victor Villa and like the energy of the place. And Block Party used to be close by. I don't know if it's still there. And I trust that Bill had a good experience, and of course has like said all the things good that he had to say about the food. But I can also imagine that panning the most popular taco place as determined by Taco Madness would not win a bunch of friends at the LA Times. Again, that's conspiracy hat on. Conspiracy hat off. Yeah, look, people have different experiences with food. And I think Villa's Tacos, maybe even before Bill, perhaps if there are other Sauls out there who didn't have a great, experience the first time around, maybe more I don't know, divisive than once believed.
Yeah, yeah, no, I wonder if this is sort of like going to give birth to an entire undercurrent of like people who are too afraid to speak out about not liking Villa's Tacos, but now feel emboldened, because Bill Esparza has thrown the first stone. I personally don't think so. I think that there are a lot more fans out there than detractors. But yeah, man, I think this just nails it in that food is highly subjective. You have two of the like sort of most accomplished palates in our city saying completely different things about the exact same taco. And, I think there is some argument to be made that with Bill Esparza, he knows this cuisine so well that he's probably
Yeah.
hypercritical of it too, right? I'm sure Bill Addison knows it well also, but I'm sure he wouldn't even begin to claim that he knows it as well as Bill Esparza. And speaking from experience, when you have that kind of familiarity with a cuisine like me with like pasta and stuff, you take me to Evan Funky's restaurant and I start bitching and moaning. I think that it's highly subjective and experience really colors, like your past experience really colors your opinions, right? But there will be people who use this as ammunition to say Bill Addison's an idiot and we should send him to the New York Times.
I won't be one of those people, but I tend to lean towards Esparza's analysis here. Though again, the hard thing to parse is like how fair of a review really was it from Bill Esparza, given the personal animosity. That's kind of like the question.
Look, man, at a time when our entire nation is begging for us to turn down the temperature of the discourse, it feels like Los Angeles is very much sort of at peak angriness over this. What lessons are we supposed to walk away with here?
I don't know. This is more of like, I mean, frankly, like this is kind of it's sort of a spectacle, right? Like, I don't think Villa's Tacos is going to be impacted by this in their business. I don't think Bill Esparza will ultimately be impacted by this in any way. I don't know. I can see like backlash against Esparza, which I hope doesn't happen too hard. Though again, like it was in terms of the tone and some of the content a bit over the line. I think nothing happens. It's just like an interesting moment that will go on the Villa's Tacos Wikipedia page forever, maybe.
I have an idea. I think we should write combating opinion pieces and post them on our Substack. You write in defense of Bill Esparza. I write in defense of Victor Villa.
I would really like not to do this.
Too bad, man. That's the homework assignment. No, in all seriousness, though, one thing we didn't mention is that these are the things that Bill Esparza posted are stories, so they've disappeared, right? So,
Yeah.
or they will disappear. No, they've already disappeared because he did it literally over 24 hours ago now. So we did take screenshots for you, dear listener, and we will be posting them to the LA Food Stack. So be sure to go and subscribe, or at least to click the link for the latest version in the show notes to access all that, as well as our links to the other big stories this week. But yeah, man, it's been a wild week. I'm not really sure we need to talk about anything else.
I guess not. I haven't been parsing that. I mean, the New York Times Pete Wells news is big, but of course, we're an LA food podcast. Come on. I mean,
That becomes relevant when they start to come, like, take reporters from our city, which has happened. Ruth Reichel famously went from the LA Times to the New York Times. I wouldn't be surprised if there were betting odds for the replacement of Pete Wells. I would guess that Bill Addison would be pretty high on that list. That's just my opinion. Now, okay, well, look, man, do you have a shitty Yelp review?
no, I almost did, but I avoided it yesterday. But yeah, no, I've been good this week.
Okay, I've got one for you real quick. My shitty Yelp review is I have a tendency to just kind of like freak out when I get to a parking lot and park the car at the first place I see available. And that ultimately ends up leading my wife and I to have to walk great distances to get to the entrance of wherever we are going. Last week, we went to Simone, a fantastic pan-South American restaurant down in Venice, which is so good, dude. Honestly, that's one of the places I was talking about earlier that's like, we have to go. You would absolutely love it. You would feel like we're simultaneously in Los Angeles and back in Colombia at the same time. It's like really cool. And there's a parking lot across the street. And I dropped my wife off because we were running late for the reservation and I went to go park. I did what I always do, right? I freaked out. It was a full lot. I found the first spot and it was pretty far from the entrance. When we got back to the parking lot, all the other cars had left. So it just looked like I had parked as far away as possible just to troll my wife, basically. And of course, she proceeded to make endless fun of me in front of our friends. It was very embarrassing for me. I promise I'm not doing this on purpose. I'm just a bad driver and I have a little bit of anxiety when it comes to parking, but she certainly feels like this is a personal vendetta against her.
This is a historic Luca thing. I didn't know about the particular habit you have for parking lots, but you have a tiny little car, and I remember looking at your parallel park jobs when we lived together, and I was like, "What is this guy doing? This car is tiny," and you'd be like angular, crooked, like or like right up against someone else with like 8 feet behind you. Yeah, the Luca as a bad driver is always a rich vein of stories.
Bad and bold driver, which is a horrible combination. All right, so
Don't love that.
quick question for you before we move on. How do you feel about ice cream, specifically fruit flavored ice cream?
Hey, I mean, chocolate or vanilla. Let's not complicate this. Like, forget it. I'm joking. I'm joking. I know you're setting me up. Although, quite honestly, I basically only eat chocolate ice cream. Raspberry is good, but very excited to learn about fruit flavored ice creams from here.
Have you ever had New Zealand style real fruit ice cream?
I don't think I have. That sounds good.
You're in for a treat when you come back to Los Angeles, and you're in for a treat right now because you're about to learn all about it after the break. But thanks for joining us, buddy.
It was a good time.
Dear listener, my wife recently decided to start eating meat after more than 15 years of being a vegetarian, and being the conscientious consumer that I am, I've been looking for ways to make our household's meat consumption as high quality and sustainable as possible. That's why I'm absolutely thrilled to have found First Light Farms, a small collective of passionate family farmers in New Zealand who are quietly changing the world. Not only are they producing the most tender, rich, and succulent Wagyu beef money can buy, but you can rest assured that First Light's cattle were raised as nature intended, living it up on lush pasture, eating a 100% grass diet with absolutely no grains, no animal byproducts, and no feedlots. The result is the best tasting meat in the game, full of natural marbling and packed with omega-3 fats. If you've ever enjoyed a meal at Ma2 in Beverly Hills, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Ma2 famously sources all of its meat directly from First Light, and the good news is that you too can have First Light Farms meats delivered straight to your door. All you have to do is visit www.firstlight.farm, where you can buy their meats and also sign up for their members-only steak club. Members of the steak club enjoy tons of benefits, including monthly shipments of steaks, access to the highest marble score meats, and, this is my favorite part, access to First Light's full library of proprietary recipes and techniques. Also, you can cook the perfect steak within the comfort of your own home. Buying good steak isn't easy and it isn't cheap. First Light delivers the highest quality at an incredible deal, and now that I've seen the light, I'm never going back. Visit www.firstlight.farm to learn more and use the code LAFood10 for a 10% discount on your first order. Dear listener, I am stoked because today on the podcast, we have the co-founders of one of LA's most exciting ice cream shops specializing in New Zealand-style real fruit ice cream. It's Duncan Parsons and Joe Wedd of Creamy Boys. Duncan and Joe, How you guys doing?
Doing good. Thanks for having us.
Lucas, what up, mate? Yeah, it's good. It's a pleasure. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's the goal. We're going to have some fun. Well, welcome to the podcast. Where are you guys calling us from?
My bedroom, basically. Yeah, this is like a bit of an attic bedroom, which explains the roof. But yeah, we're at home.
I'm in Venice Beach, California.
Venice Beach, California. Yeah, listener, you can't see this, but it looks like, they're calling from like typical, stereotypical attic you'd see in a movie. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys haven't been kidnapped.
Oh, mate,
Yeah.
You should see the carpet. It's leopard print. It's all go up
Yeah,
there.
it actually is. and recently, like 2 months ago, because the ceiling's quite low, I bashed my head on the lampshade that you can sort of see, and I got a serious concussion. I'm still feeling the effects of it 2 months ago. So it's a real work hazard, this room. It's a hazard in general.
Was the leopard print carpet a decision before or after the concussion?
It's been here since I arrived, that's for sure.
I think it was a decision in the 70s, maybe.
Yeah.
It was time appropriate when it happened, for sure. Well, I respect you for not breaking up the architectural integrity of the room. Now, Venice Beach, is that your guys' regular stomping grounds, West Side?
Yep. Yeah, pretty much we've lived.
What do you guys like to do around there? Where do you guys like to eat?
I'd say my go-to for lunch is Giada down the road. Like they've opened a new one under the Venice sign. That's like a big hit for sure.
Yeah, we're a sucker for some street tacos as well.
Yeah.
Primo's on Lincoln is our. That's really close to us. That's our spot.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And then you can't go past for a drink. We head to
the one on the boardwalk.
Irish bar.
Oh, Jameson's.
Yeah. $5 pints, mate. Can't beat it.
Okay. I was gonna say it's like that or like what's the other one? Oh no, wait. Didn't there used to be a place called Sonny McLean's out there? God, I do not get to the West Side enough.
There is in Santa Monica.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
We go for a heavy-handed and then go for a drink at Jameson's. That's a good recipe.
Good combo.
That's a great combo. Yeah, heavy-handed, great burgers. And Giada, they're opening one on my block too over here on the east side. So it's like we can be having sandwiches together, but like 13 miles and 2 hours of traffic apart.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about a land where there's far less traffic, and I'm talking about New Zealand. We're going to start at the very beginning, okay? I understand that you guys grew up on an apple orchard or apple orchards. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. We grew up on the same street. I was at the one end of the street, Joe's at the other. Where we grew up, lots of agriculture and farms and orchards, and we both grew up on apple orchards. Yeah.
Yeah, Hawke's Bay, New Zealand. They call it the fruit bowl of New Zealand.
The fruit bowl.
So we're pretty blessed to grow up in such a sweet place.
I love that. I grew up in what they call the armpit of Switzerland, when yours is much more picturesque than that. How did you guys like become friends? What attracted you to each other?
Magnetic.
Yeah, where do we start? We went to the same primary school, so we met when we were maybe like 5 years old. I don't know, we were just sort of into the same stuff. I remember Duncan was just really fast, so I liked that about him. He was just running around all the time. And we just had a group of boys that got up to stuff and, a lot of outdoors, a lot of activities, and sort of just from there, I think, probably first day, so right, we're friends.
Shout out Havelock Primary School.
Yeah.
Love at first sight. So what was it like to grow up in Hawke's Bay? What kind of stuff did you guys eat?
Well, a lot of fruit for one thing. Like my dad grows apples, and on our street there was like plums, peaches, pears, apricots, you kind of name it. So we were always sort of walking through the orchards, stealing other fruit from other farms. I feel like it's kind of part of it. Grapefruit as well.
Yeah, Dunk's a massive fan of grapefruit, which is a very unique taste, I think.
Sucker.
But then the opposite of health is the meat pie, the New Zealand meat pie, and that's kind of like a savoury mince sort of base thing in a flaky pastry.
Have you ever had a mince pie?
Well, my father-in-law is Australian, so I was about to take issue with your characterization of it as a New Zealand mince pie, because I think there's some debate about who owns it, right?
Oh mate,
Nah,
no debate for us.
I don't think so. Nah.
It's funny. I was actually recently had a chef on the podcast, chef from Linden in Hollywood, and he was telling us that on the menu there, he does a Wagyu New Zealand style mince pie. And we had this conversation about who owns the mince pie, and he made a very compelling case for New Zealand, actually. So you may be onto something.
Yeah, we don't really care. We just eat them.
Yeah.
Have you guys found any good ones out here?
Ponsonby Road Cafe in Beverly or Hollywood,
like Melrose kind of area.
Yeah, They're
Yeah.
the best so far.
That's a good one. There's a guy called Jay who makes pies based kind of in the South Bay or downtown. He's an Australian, but we forgive him for it. He makes epic pies too. And it's pretty awesome to see those, like Jay and some of these guys around, as you know, this guy in Colorado. Their business seems to be growing a lot, which is awesome for them, but also just for pies. Like we're so stoked to see that sort of growing.
Yeah, if it wasn't ice cream, it'd be pies.
Yeah.
Yeah, between pies and ice cream, it sounds like New Zealand is really having a come up here in Los Angeles. Now, I'll confess, before you guys propped up on the scene, I didn't even know that New Zealand ice cream was a thing. Can you tell us a little bit about what real fruit ice cream is?
It's something we grew up with in New Zealand. It's probably been around for 30 plus years. And basically, it's these special machines. They kind of look a bit like an industrial drill press. And you start with a vanilla-based ice cream, and then you add sort of fresh frozen fruit. And then it blends it all up on the spot and comes out like a creamy, refreshing, fruit-flavored ice cream. And it's just awesome in the summers. My favorite or our go-to is just like a boysenberry real fruit ice cream or mixed berry. But you can do any fruits. And it's widespread in New Zealand. It's kind of everywhere, from the north down to the south. It's all one-offs. So you'll have a berry farm that'll have a machine, or just sort of mom and pop type establishments. There's no chains. It's super low key. And it's kind of like, the taste of New Zealand summer is a real fruit ice.
Is it kind of like, do you think it maybe is because of there are so many orchards and you're the fruit bowl of New Zealand in some ways? The orchards and the farms were looking for ways to sort of like pawn off more fruit before it goes bad, maybe just like chucking it in ice cream.
Yeah, like the one at the end of our road, it's called the Strawberry Patch, and it's kind of like the mecca for this ice cream.
Oh, that's the best in the world.
And we grew up Joe was like 50 yards or whatever, from it basically. But they have it's a big strawberry farm, and then they have a shed basically, or a barn with all these different types of fruit. So you stop there on the way home from school, and your parents buy all this fruit and vegetables, and the kids are kicking around being like, what are we doing here? So I think that the kids get an ice cream and the parents get an ice cream too. So they kind of in sync in that way.
Yeah.
Definitely because of all the fruit, and the fruit growing areas of New Zealand have more of this ice cream.
Oh,
then it's everywhere.
Yeah, then there's the whole ice cream factor. I think per capita, New Zealand's the highest consumer of ice cream in the world. So when you've got that much fruit and that much ice cream floating around, it's bound to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing. It's kind of like a match made in heaven in that way. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the journey of how you got this New Zealand style ice cream over to the United States. I understand that it begins with you, Duncan. You decided to go to uni in the States. Why? It sounds like life was pretty idyllic out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you grow up outside of the US, for a lot of people, like in New Zealand, you're like, man, America's all the rage. You want to go check it out. And I played soccer here for a couple of weeks in college and on the East Coast, and had an amazing time. And I was like, this was so epic. I would love to come back, go to uni here, go to college. And I think a lot of people did, but it's just hard in New Zealand. But it's just hard to go to, just because it's so expensive, kind of hard to get into, and it's very foreign. I'd never met anyone. I met one person before I came over that had gone to college here. So I was pretty didn't know what I was in for. But yeah, I don't know. Just thought it'd be fun.
And you ended up on the East Coast, right?
Yep. I went to Duke.
Yep. Nice. Although I'm sure there will be plenty of people on this podcast who take issue with Duke, because as I'm sure you found out, it's a polarizing school to go to.
Yeah.
Joe, what were you up to while Duncan was out here pursuing his American dream?
Mate, I was living the cool. Well, I went to uni as well. I went to uni in New Zealand and did civil engineering, and that took 4 years. Well, it was 4 years, and that was sweet. Uni in New Zealand. Well, uni in New Zealand is a whole story in itself, but fantastic time. You live in houses with all your friends, and you drink as much as you can still pass your exams. There's a bit of a balance. And graduated there, and then went into project management for after that. That was my job after uni.
Yeah, and so Duncan, you're out here in the United States. What was the biggest adjustment to living in the US after leaving New Zealand? And you can say the lack of real fruit ice cream, of course.
Yeah, dearth of it. I mean, the whole thing was like so different, to be honest. I had no idea what I was in for. One thing I thought was funny to me that I wasn't really expecting was I joined a fraternity and like did a full, was like
Oh shit.
haze, or like did pledging and like did this and went to these college parties. I actually like, obviously pretty normal for the US, but I guess I thought I didn't know Duke would have a scene like that as much, really. So and also this is ridiculous, but I must have looked up like Duke and North Carolina and stuff, but I really didn't know much at all about the college. For some reason, I thought that North Carolina was a desert. Like, I thought everything below, like Washington, D.C., was kind of like cactus, desert, tumbleweed. And I just thought, oh, like, that's all good. I didn't really. And then I remember flying in, and it's like this gorgeous, it's basically just a huge forest. And I was like, oh, like, that's a relief, I guess. Like, this is nice. That was the biggest curveball for me, I guess.
That's funny. You're like gotten protective cactus suits ready just to like move here, and yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why I thought that, or I didn't look it up, but I just remember looking out the window. I was like, "Damn, this is real nice. This is like tons of trees. This is very chill." Like,
Yeah. Yeah,
know.
you're like, I can fit in here. That is really funny. What's and so after you graduated, you moved to California. Why to California?
Yeah, I moved to California. It was sort of natural for me because it was halfway back to New Zealand. So it was not that I wanted to be in New Zealand, but like I think culturally also it's halfway. Sort of, it's a lot of the weather's amazing. There's so much outdoors and sport and like national parks and like I don't know, just that all appealed to me. And I originally went to San Francisco, and I career-wise, like job-wise, it was a bit unusual, but I didn't have for kind of my class or amongst my friends, but I didn't have a job or anything. Like I just wanted to join a startup in San Francisco. All through my life, I've had like hustles and started companies and that sort of entrepreneurial stuff. So I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I thought, oh, I'll go to California, maybe I'll go to San Francisco, see what that's like, meet some people and follow my nose. So I ended up in San Francisco, basically early 2020. That's kind of, that's why I ended up on the West Coast. And should I talk about the ice cream, I guess? That's probably why.
Well, I was going to ask, at what point were you like, fuck Silicon Valley, I'm going to start an ice cream company? Who had this idea?
I basically was like there for a few months. I was on a student visa and I had like 3 or 4 months before it was going to expire, before I needed to get a job, be working for someone to stay like, in the US. And I kind of thought I was having an awesome time, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to like kick it for a few months, have a bit of a break before I start work, because I know I won't really be able to stop once I start. I was broke. I was like staying on my mate's couch, just like bumming around because a few friends that moved there. And I was also catching up with lots of friends in New Zealand because the time zone was so close, one of them being Joe. And we kind of got talking about ideas for me to make a few bucks, over the next couple months. And that's kind of where that was the genesis of the ice cream, the real fruit ice cream idea, because we must have just talked about like, oh, what's an easy way to make a few bucks? And
I was
like,
probably
what's simple?
smashing an ice cream on the phone.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, that was kind of like that. I guess that's the earliest memory I have of it. And then I'd go to all these parties, or I'd go and meet people, and everyone in San Francisco, or everyone you meet, they're always like, "Oh, what do you do for work?" And I was like, "Well, I don't really have a job, but I might sell some ice cream for a couple months." And then everyone would be like, "Oh, no way! Like, tell me about the ice cream thing." And that was all I had. Like what I just described to you, I was like, "Yeah, maybe I'll do it on the street." I don't know anything about it, or like actually doing it. But basically, it was kind of funny. And all these conversations, I just had to make up the story of what I was going to do and get all these ideas from people. And then, I'd like tell people about it, tell Joe about it. And that sort of came together I kind of got forced into it in some ways by the conversation, but also I was like stoked on it. And I think a lot of people, everyone that I talked to was really stoked about the idea of like, I don't know, me being an ice cream man. And it all just kind of came together. It was like a bit of a...
Yeah, the people's energy made it happen.
Yeah.
A big part.
For sure.
It was received super well.
So what do you mean, like, I was going to make ice cream? At what point did you actually start making ice cream, and what that look like?
Well, I thought I could just maybe sit up on the Embarcadero or something, bring a table and like one of these machines and just pop it up and just do it. But the permitting was quite difficult, and it was more expensive than I thought. Like the machines are harder to get and just a bit more impractical. So I basically just started planning it that year. I think I basically was like, okay, this is going to be a bit more work than I thought. It turned out to be way more work than I thought. But like at that point, I was like, I got to do this a bit more seriously. Like, I'll do this for a whole year or something. I'll do this for the summer. It was early in the year. I was like, I'll be an ice cream man for the summer and kind of see what happens. And I thought the easiest way to do it would be a food truck because you can move around. If you make a mistake, you can just drive somewhere else. You can pick the best spot. You don't have this having rent and like having a storefront was kind of scary to me. And then I thought, oh, I'll do a trailer because I could build a trailer. I could, a truck. There's there's less things that can break down. And then so the next step was I was looking for trailers, looking for machines, just like researching it. And later on in the year, middle of 2020, I went out and got the trailer from Arkansas.
Wow. Okay, we're gonna get there, but Joe, what convinced you? Like, so when you were walking or talking with Duncan about this idea, at what point were you like, this is exciting. I might want to actually join Duncan on this somewhat high risk pursuit in a different country.
Same thing with Dunk a little bit. I went to high school in the States for 2 months in my like final year of high school, and it was the best time of my life. It was so sick, and my dad had done a year in America, and so there was the same allure that brought Dunk over here was still there for me. So the States seemed like a great idea. Ice cream seemed like a fantastic idea. Plus, I'd been in a corporate job for 3 years, and mate, that was just getting getting boring. That was getting to me a bit. This just seemed like rainbows and everything was like the mecca of what do you want to do with your life? Holy shit! Well, I'll just go and do this with Dunk. That sounds like awesome, like a journey, a real adventure. So yeah, a bit of not loving what I was doing. And then, a bit of the unknown, doing it with Dunks. And we've known each other for forever.
Yeah.
So it was like, it was cool. It was a bit of a leap, but I was sort of, at that time in my life, really keen to take those sort of leaps and change things up. So it was, it just all aligned.
All aligned. Yeah, no, I think everybody has this dream. I remember my first corporate job too. It was like a shock to the system. Like, holy shit, I cannot imagine doing this for the rest of my life. Like, and you start daydreaming about, oh, I would love to just like maybe start something on my own, potentially with my best friend. But very few people actually go and do it. So, kudos to you two. And we're going to get to the development of it. But Duncan, you mentioned this trip to Arkansas. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I understand it was quite the journey.
Yeah, it was a blast. I thought of food trucks as a lot of them as like kind of these big things up high. You kind of order through a window and you can't really see the people cooking the food, and it's a little bit it's not as like open and like not an open kitchen sort of situation. And I sort of thought, I'd love to be in the truck and like have more interface with customers and stuff there. So I was looking around for a while and I tried to find a kind of a vehicle trailer that was like that, and I found one, but it was in Arkansas, and I was like, you know what, this is it. Like I saw it and I was like, this thing is epic, and we still use it. Like we have a couple of them, and we still use that first one. It was built in 1990 and it's to sell funnel cakes, and so I found it on Facebook Marketplace, and this guy's daughter was selling it. The dad had just like finished up 30 years of selling funnel cakes at the state fair in in Arkansas. He was in Little Rock.
Wow.
Yeah, I flew out there, met this guy Tom, and he put me up for a couple of days and just like hung out with him. He showed me around the town. It's a beautiful town. It was so cool. He took me to Red Lobster as well, my first ever time at Red Lobster.
The local delicacy.
Yeah, which was so awesome. We got chicken Alfredo and a baked potato, and he got 3. I'll never forget him getting 2 extra servings of butter and sour cream and just like smashing it into his baked potatoes like it was like a soup.
Oh my God.
He was a real character, and he ran the local theater as well. So
it's amazing.
Basically, I don't know. I went out there. I was like, this thing's awesome. Long story short, I just rented this like pickup truck that was not rated to tow something so heavy, but I just had to use it. And I went and bought a tow hitch from O'Reilly's and like stuck it on, which you're not meant to do, but I didn't have any money, any choice. And then my mate Izette flew in, college buddy, and he flew into Arkansas, and we road trip back, like 3 or 4 days, and it was just like a riot. Coming into California over the mountains, because this pickup truck was like small, it was like a mid-sized truck. The double axle trailer with all the weight, the hitch was too low, and all the weight was on the front axle, and the tires were kind of old. and one of the tires like blew out on the way into California and like completely shredded in the middle of nowhere on this highway.
Jeez.
So there was all this sort of chaos, but it was a
You guys took it on the salt flats too.
yeah, that's
Did
right.
some races.
We went through Salt Lake City and we went on the salt flats. So we would see how fast we could drive. You know, the trailer and the truck doing drifts around and.
Love that it's like, yeah, let's take our time getting back to LA. Let's just have some fun with this thing, you know? That's funny. What's did you guys I mean, one of my favorite things about road trips is the food along the way. Did you come across any interesting food besides the we'll call it an Arkansas potato with extra butter and sour cream?
The thing that comes to mind, you said, is a year later I got another trailer from Kentucky, really like similar model. And it was in the town Evanstown or Evansville or something like that. And it has insane barbecue. So it's kind of maybe one of the barbecue capitals in Kentucky, or maybe it's the town or the city to go to. And that was incredible. Just like had barbecue for like 3 days straight.
That sounds legendary. And
then I don't know, you know, on a road trip too, you're like, yeah, you eat all these different spots. I guess you try to have cool stuff, but you also just eat a lot of gas stations.
It's true.
We were just driving like through the night and stuff, rotating, and you're just eating like garbage, you know. So
sampling ice creams along the way too.
Oh yeah, that's true. That I forgot about that. We would buy different ice creams every gas station. It was about like 2 hours every gas station because this little truck had a little tank and it was getting absolutely burning through fuel. And yeah, we rated these different ice creams, all these like terrible gas station ice creams, to be honest, but some of them were good.
Like Dibs and like whatever you can find at your local ice cream, like gas station. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then when you finally got here, it took you 9 months to fix up the van.
9 months, including at that point, it was the middle of 2020, and I started like selling ice cream, got my permit 9 months later, spring of 2021. In the meantime, I was selling ice cream illegally, like at night markets and just without permits and kind of just getting kicked off place and getting fines and all that sort of shit. But
pirate
pirate ice cream. But it took so long because you have to comply with all these regulations in this county, in LA County. You know, like so, you know, emergency exits and ventilation and like the size of the window and the glass and like
three basin sinks.
The sinks, the plumbing, the hot water. There was a crazy amount of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's all really expensive to comply with, basically. So I was doing it on the cheap, and I had a friend I made here. I kind of roped his dad into it. He's a legend. Shout out, Paul, if you listen to this. Kind of roped him into. He's like semi-retired. He's like a real handy guy. So I just kind of roped him into helping me. So we kind of stitched it together. Got heaps and heaps of help from all these local like food truck builders and electricians and plumbers and you name it. Who were just down to kind of help me with my little dream and gave me like, you know, did it for free or gave me a really good price. So I think that it took a long time just because I had no money. I just tried to do it myself. Pretty manual process. I was learning as I was going. And also it was COVID. COVID was in full swing. So yeah, the health department was really tricky to deal with in that period of time.
Were they super lax or super on it?
Well, I'd submit my plans and then be like, mate, these plans are rubbish. Like you clearly did them yourself and you don't know you don't know how to draw a plan. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Like that's exactly what happened. And then we'll send us some better ones. And I'd be like, well, can we talk about it? Because I don't really know. These guidelines are a little vague and I would love, you know, a conversation and be like, no, you can't. We can't talk about it. I think normally you're allowed to go in maybe and speak to them, but the offices were closed. So they were just like, you're on your own, buddy. And then, you know, I got food truck builders to help me out and stuff. But every time you submit, right, you put it in and it takes 30 days for them to get it back to you. And then you fail and you send it back again. And the the person I had for the actual health thing, I think she was pretty hard case. Since then, I've dealt with people that have been a lot more friendly. I think she just was suffering a bit with everything going on in COVID, probably.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, in summary, it took a lot longer than I thought to do to actually get it permitted.
But you got there.
But I got there, yeah. And the second one was way faster. I was like, all right, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. So Joe, what point did you get to California?
So we're on visas. So same thing with Duncan. With the trailer taking so long because of COVID, my visa was just in limbo. I think we were told 6 to 8 weeks, and it ended up taking about 8 months.
Wow.
Yeah, we applied December of 2021, and I think it wasn't till August 2022 that I finally got over.
Hmm.
But that was cool. We were just I was living. I always say girlfriend, but I was living with my fiance, and we'd built a tiny house back in New Zealand. So we were just living the dream in this tiny house on this awesome property that we were just renting for cheap. I'd quit my job too, so I'd been unemployed for nearly a year because of this. I quit halfway through 2021 because I thought that the visa would get approved and I'd be straight over and that sort of stuff. So I was sort of just also, I guess, running out of money. So I was working for myself. I was doing building and I was building composting toilets for tiny houses because there was a bit of a
Wow, such a niche.
be a niche of a niche, yeah. But it was awesome. It paid for me to be unemployed for a year. It paid for an engagement ring. It let me just be outside on the tools, in the summer in New Zealand. So it was sick. And then Joe and I, my fiance is also called Joe. We
No way.
yeah, we moved back to Hawke's Bay, getting ready to come to the States, and then got hit with it's going to be another 3 months. So we actually went to Bali for a month. It was epic. I think we were on the first plane, one of the first planes out of New Zealand. Bali just had like no one there, so we kind of just had a month surfing, and then finally got over here in August of 2022, and then it was all on.
It was all off to the races. Now, Duncan, what about actually starting to make ice cream? I mean, you'd eaten it all your life, but I'm assuming did you have previous experience actually making ice cream?
I in 2020, like when even in San Francisco, and then when I was building it, I had the machine and I was like testing it, and I would make it at some friends' houses and stuff like that. And when I went back to get my visa at the start of 21, and to New Zealand, I was back home for like a few weeks, and I went to the fruit shop, which is the local. One of our friends owned this equivalent, like the strawberry patch, and the girls there showed me. If Loz is listening, she schooled me on how to make real fruit ice cream. So I learned from the best. Basically, I went home for a training period.
At the same time, I was in New Zealand. I guess it was, looking back, probably company funded now, but I was going from like the North Island to the South Island and kind of sampling every real fruit ice cream I could, and then taking notes. And we would talk to Dunk. Oh mate, this one looks like shit, but it tastes good. Or the ratio to fruit and ice cream is way off on this one. I had like photos and notes and everything. So we were studying the authentic product.
You're doing your R&D, yeah. So wait, talk us through actual like the making of real fruit ice cream. Like what are the components? How is it made? Not to give away all of your trade secrets or your friends' trade secrets over there in New Zealand, but just so our public can understand a little bit, what is unique about this? What makes for a good one versus a not so good one, especially as you experienced on your travels, Joe?
Yeah, well, it's all about ingredients, really. In New Zealand specifically, it's just you've got the happy cows and the paddocks, having a great life, and that just makes good milk. So you've got a good base, right? To start off with the vanilla ice cream, and then it's the fruit. The quality of the fruit, super important. It's obviously you need to freeze it, but you can you choose when it's at its ripest point, and then that's when you sort of freeze it to make the best frozen fruit for the ice cream. But you just take a really great vanilla base ice cream, and then you source the best fruit you can, and then our ratio is probably maybe 2/3 to 1/3. I'd say 2/3 ice cream, 1/3 berries. You can go a little bit more of the fruit for a vegan option. We use a tapioca vanilla based ice cream, and then it's all about the swirl, how it looks, which is more harder than you think, and then the good vibes of the New Zealander handing you the ice cream.
Oh, that's key. That's key. The vibes. Wait, talk us through the swirl because I've had your ice cream. It's fantastic, and I'm not just saying that because you're on the podcast and I want to be a nice person. It's actually really good, but it also looks really beautiful too. Like it does look like it has the sort of like soft serve trademark swirl thing going on top. You just said it's more difficult than it seems. What makes it difficult?
I guess you're using your whole brain. It's left and right side. You've got to be pulling the lever down with your right arm and then doing little
pirouettes.
little pirouettes or clockwise motions or anti-clockwise with your left hand. So you're doing two things, and then you've got to take the cup away before the cone. There's a few moving parts.
There's an art to it.
There's an art. Depends a little. Another key part is getting the temperatures right of your ice cream and your fruit. You make life easier when you figure that out for sure.
Yeah.
And it does look really, like you said, it looks really good, and it's cool because it's just real. The color is real from the fruit, mixed berries, strawberry, whatever other fruit you've got in there. Depending on what flavor you get and how you serve it, you basically get like little pieces of fruit in it. So you can tell it's real. So that's it's all natural.
Yeah, and the cool thing is it looks like soft serve, and it has the consistency of soft serve, but it's full ice cream. Like it doesn't have that air contact that soft serve has. And we sort of, if you're a kid, you have ice cream and you put it in a bowl and you get your spoon, you just mash it all around, you mix it all up.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what our machines do to the ice cream. So it just makes it super smooth, creamy, and then you've got it's cool. I guess we say it's nearly healthy ice cream because you've got the fruit added in.
Well, you say that, it's funny. My favorite flavor, the one that I'm a total slub for, is the Hokey Pokey, which a lot of people don't even listening to this won't know what it is. Can you tell our listeners what Hokey Pokey is?
That's negative fruit.
Yeah, the Hokey Pokey is that's a famous flavor of ice cream in New Zealand, and it's not real fruit ice cream, but we make it the same process to make it, and in the sense that we're blending it with vanilla ice cream. And Hokey Pokey itself is like a crunchy honeycomb toffee. It's really sweet. It's delicious. And we grew up eating it all the time. Mostly the form we make it in is in a crunchy bar, which is a snack you might have heard of, like it's around the world.
The Cadbury's Crunchy Bar?
Exactly, yeah. And when you're a kid in New Zealand, everyone goes at some point, learns how to make Hokey Pokey. For some, I don't know, I feel like it's a bit of a rite of passage.
Yeah, it's a cool.
It's like some cultures have bar mitzvahs. You guys have Hokey Pokey making?
Yeah, pretty much. You got to make exactly coming of age. So that's basically we make that Hokey Pokey base in house, and then we smash it up and put it through the machine through the vanilla ice cream, so it blends through it, and then sprinkle it on top as well.
Oh, and it's a hectic process. If you know how to make Hokey Pokey, it's basically like a few ingredients, and then you add baking soda, and it all reacts, right? So it rises, and it's a toffee, so it's molten hot. So we've got we've each got, we call them Creamy Boys tattoos pretty much, and they're kind of basically just burn marks from some of the Hokey Pokey getting on you. You get a little scar, but
it's a bit of a mad scientist situation.
Huge mad scientist. But since it actually is it is our most popular flavor over here. We have to make a bunch of it, so it's pretty hectic. Just the amounts we're making. I think we actually might need to hit up Cadbury soon and see what they're up to.
A partnership, yeah. It sounds like the scars are part of the rite of passage, though. It sounds like so. It sounds like you're doing that part right. Now, when you started actually serving your ice cream here, whether it was on the black market, Duncan, or later on when you finally opened up shop with the van, and later your brick and mortar. How was the reception? It seems like something that would jive well in California, since we're also, obsessed with natural ingredients. But what did you find?
Yeah, basically, people were really curious to try new things, and no one had heard of it before. You definitely explained the style a lot to everyone when they're really interested. And I was at the Mar Vista Farmers Market for about 2 years in total, and that was an awesome place to be because I used fruit from the market. And so people could talk to the grower where it came from. And it was also at the market too was awesome because kind of like at home, I was saying before, kids loved it because the kids go to the farmer's market and they're like, they're like, I don't really care about all these vegetables, but I'm keen to have an ice cream, especially at like 9 a.m. That's pretty fun. Yeah, just so the reaction was really positive. Like people, the first day I ever sold ice cream with my permits was in April and at Zuma Beach, which is kind of just a spot I'd been before, and I was like, this is such a beautiful beach, and I knew I could pull the truck up on the tarmac on the sand, like right next to the sand, this one spot. And I ended up getting kicked off and like got these fines and stuff. But on the second weekend, but like the first weekend, I remember was nuts. It was like so busy, and it was just kind of like ticked it off for me. I kind of, in my mind, went way back in 2020 when I thought about it. I was like, I'm going to move to Los Angeles. I kind of want to set up and sell ice cream at the beach. I've got this vision. And that day, it was just like, it was perfect. And it was just awesome because in that spot too, but people were like, yo, man, I got a refreshing, delicious ice cream at the beach. This is a good deal. And then that summer, I spent a bunch of that summer set up under the Venice sign because I was living locally and I just knew there was lots of people around that area. And that was really fun. And it was the first time that I had like regulars come back because I was there regularly. So people could come back to it. And that was a fun feeling as well.
Yeah.
The sickest thing is that the ice cream's made to order too. So like not only are you getting this new sort of taste in California, you're getting a show. Like you can see your ice cream being made, and that's, I think, a part of it too. You can watch it. It's like kids love it. I mean, all ages love it, but you know, you can see your fruit going in. It's blended, like it's special. It's made for you. It's your ice cream.
Yeah, it also speaks to old like millennials as well, because we grew up with this concept called Cold Stone Creamery here in America. I'm sure you're familiar with it as ice cream business entrepreneurs, but that was one of the beautiful parts of it too. You saw them mashing up the ingredients in it, and it's no longer cool to go to Cold Stone, so it's nice to have like the adult version or the sort of like healthier version of Cold Stone as well. Although I'm not trying to compare you guys to Cold Stone and insult the culture of New Zealand real fruit ice cream by doing that, of course. Now, when did you guys actually open your brick and mortar in Hermosa Beach?
That shop opened in December last year.
How's that been?
Oh,
that's been awesome.
Massive, yeah. We had a pop-up in Manhattan Beach in 2022.
2022, yeah.
For 8 months. It was just like a kind of experiment, but then the place got demolished. But we really wanted to get back down to the South Bay because that, you know, the community is just awesome down there. It's by the beach and it's just, it's fantastic. And then Dunk had a wee friend down that lived in Hermosa Beach that he stayed over one night with her, and she sort of was just walking around, I guess, the next morning, maybe getting your coffees or something, and walked past this shop that had a for lease sign in the window and flicked a photo to Duncan, and then sort of the rest is history. We got in touch with the building owner, and he's a legend. Shout out Mark. And it was kind of that kind of started just a Duncan.
Go from there.
Duncan's
yeah, Duncan's game actually got you guys a permanent location. I love that.
Yep, what you wish for. Yeah.
South Bay makes sense. I feel like that's very much a community that would like something like this. I have noticed, you know, there's Creamy Boys. I've noticed a couple other New Zealand ice cream places pop up. Is this about to be the next craze?
Yeah, I don't know. It could be like, people enjoying it and seems to be catching on.
For sure, in the last 4 years since we started, there's been multiple, like a lot more pop up. And there's a guy called Cameron, and he's got Happy Cones in Denver, Colorado, and he was the first ever to bring this to America. And he's an absolute legend. He's lived his life to the full, and he gave us a lot of help when we were starting up. And so a lot of people have also messaged us, you know, on the socials about getting help to start their companies around the world as well, like in Europe and in the States. But I think there's definitely more popping up. And
I forgot to ask this, but it seems like a pretty essential question. Who came up with the name Creamy Boys, and why the name?
We came up with it together like kind of on day one, just like on the phone call when the company was just not even, was just like nothing.
Back in the
But-
joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that I realized this recently. It's just because like at that point I was just going to do this thing for like a summer just for a bit of a laugh, and it was the least serious thing possible. And I think the name like reflected the nature of that, and then
Yeah,
people just laughed like when. I guess they'd ask the same thing. What are you going to call it? And then I'd say Creamy Boys, and they'd be like, "That's hilarious! Like, what a joke!" Like, no way. And I think it was a bit of that. It's like, the way we go about it is like pushing the envelope a little bit, and like it's a little bit irreverent. And the point is to have fun, So it's sort of like, what can you get away with?
Yeah, it just embodies us, I guess. Really, it's funny how polarizing the name is to start off with, and then just quickly becomes, a little bit. I mean, I don't want to say household name, but it just becomes normal. Oh, let's go Cream Boys. Like, it removes all the cheekiness after a while. But yeah, we kind of it was just like, what should we call this thing? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious. I would love to start a business called Creamy Boys. But I think that, I kind of roll my eyes when I see people like rolling their eyes at your guys' name. Because I'm just like, guys, live a little. It's fucking ice cream. Have some fun,
Hey,
Yeah.
it's ice cream. We're a couple of fellas, a couple of boys. So,
Yeah.
read into
Yeah.
it. On you sickos.
Yeah, it happens to be creamy. You do that with what you will, you fucking perverts. Okay. Now, last thing I wanted to ask you is what's in the future for Creamy Boys?
Anything really. I mean, we're pretty open to wherever it goes. We definitely like keep them working hard, and the goal is for us to open another shop later this year, maybe in a similar area to where the current one is.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, like, sort of in some ways, like, sky's the limit a little bit for us. We're just down to kind of see where it takes us. Through the ice cream, like, we're super keen to share this ice cream with as many people as we can, and we enjoy the learning process and like building shops and everything like that, and growing our team. We have an awesome team. And then also on the other side is like we're big on the branding itself and having fun with the brand, like making cool merch. We love sports and do a lot of like kind of sports merch, and just growing it in that sense is also tons of fun for us. The other thing I'd say is we're kind of what I alluded to. We sort of just don't force anything. Like we make stuff happen, but we're pretty keen to go with the flow and take opportunities as they come. What do you say?
Yeah, I 100% agree. That Creamy Boys' legal name is Creamy Boys Worldwide LLC.
Yeah.
Worldwide. Creamy Boys with a Z as well.
Yeah.
So that would be sick to,
That'd
way
be
down
cool.
the track to realize that goal to get international out of the States, or, whatever. And then, I don't know, maybe a Creamy Boys festival. Who knows?
Wow.
But, yeah, lots of ice cream and just lots of fun.
And a Creamy Boys sponsored NASCAR.
Oh, yeah.
Would be pretty sick.
Yeah.
That would be dope. I love this. Dream big. Why not? This is how it all started.
All this yeah, like if the ice cream is, Joe likes to say this, it's like the ice cream's a vehicle to kind of get you into these random spots. Like, we'll bring the truck and we'll be catering for studios in Hollywood or some random celebrities or some, awesome community group, or you name it. You kind of end up there and you're like, what the hell am I doing here? I'm from Hawke's Bay. Like, this is an odd place to end up, and you're there because of the ice cream. And so we sort of ride the ice cream to wherever it
that
takes
was
us.
phenomenal. I remember coming over and then being here for a few months and just go, how am I in the same room as like Seth Rogen, or like how am I at this mansion in Calabasas, or doing these things? Why am I on the lot of Paramount? Like, it was I was like, man, this whole ice cream thing is insane. Like, this is really, really cool, really fun.
Yeah.
And it was sick. You're a bit nervous to start off with because you're like, oh man, I like this ice cream. New Zealand likes this ice cream, but what will America think? And people, and then you'd taste test it each event. Yeah, is it good? And then you go, oh yeah, it is good. That's sweet. And then people will be like, oh, this is really good. And so like after a while, the confidence grows, and you're like, okay, it's all right. We've got a good thing here. And people like it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as I said, I've had it myself and I was extremely pleasantly surprised. I just thought, like, how good can fruit blended into ice cream be? And let me tell you guys, it can be really fucking good. So great product. I can't wait to have it again. And especially as the weather heats up here over the summer, it's going to be a Creamy Boy summer.
Hell yeah. Creamy summer.
Well, hey, Joe, Duncan, where can people find Creamy Boys if they're looking for you guys?
The shop's open in Hermosa Beach. It's 1136 Hermosa Ave, downtown Hermosa Beach, like near the pier. And it's open at the moment Tuesday through Sunday, but we'll start to open Monday soon, but noon till 11 p.m. And then our Instagram's Creamy Boys Ice Cream and the website creamyboys.com. I guess the main spots to go.
Damn, you guys got creamyboys.com? I feel like that would have been a sought after URL.
It was, it cost $3,000 to get, and I found it when I started, and I was like, oh man, I really want to get this URL, but I can't afford it. And I was like, I don't know what it takes in the meantime. And then I finally suck it up, the cash 2 years later to buy it. And I was like, phew, got this thing.
Well, Joe, Duncan, thank you so much for making the time for us. Everybody go check out Creamy Boys. You won't regret it.
Thanks, Luca.
Luca, you're
Appreciate
a legend, brother.
it.
Thanks for having us on.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the LA Food Podcast. Thanks as always to Father Saul for joining us and helping us break down a pretty delicate and nuanced topic. Also, thanks to our guests Duncan Parsons and Joe Wedd for talking us through their story and through the beauties of New Zealand style fruit ice cream. Seriously, you got to go get there and try some of their ice cream. It is absolutely fantastic, and I'm not just saying that. I had it long before they came on the podcast, and it remains one of my favorite summer treats. If you like what you heard here today, dear listener, please go to wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a rating, a review, subscribe. Seriously, all that stuff really helps us on Spotify and Apple make our way up the charts. We'll be back next week with another epic episode, but if you're looking for me in the meantime, you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and YouTube at the LA Countdown. That's TheLaCountdown. You can also find us on Instagram at the LA Food Pod. That's LAFoodPod. Don't forget to visit thelacountdown.com as well, and to subscribe to our free Substack newsletter, LA Food Stack, available at thelacountdown.substack.com.